Okay. Hi, ladies. Welcome to our first guest coach masterclass. I'm super stoked. So Amanda is my girl. We did a group coaching program together, and she is also a business coach, but also a traveling digital nomad. So she knows the deal on how to balance running a business and also enjoying her life, because that's the life that she's living. So I thought this would be really good for my ladies here. A lot of you have a 9-to-5 still, and still want to grow your business and be successful. So she's going to be talking to us all about how to organize and be super productive with our time to make sure that we're doing all the things we need to do and still moving our business forward. So Amanda, let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah. So I have quite a few things to show you guys. So I'm actually going to share my screen kind of off and on with you guys a little bit, if that's okay. And then I also, everything that I show you, don't worry too much about writing everything down, because any of the template things that I'm showing you, I'm also going to send to Michelle for you guys to have. So just wanted to, these are all my tabs at the top I'm showing you guys. Okay, cool. So yeah, so talking about productivity and organization. So I first just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about myself. Y'all can see my screen, yes? Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, so like Michelle said, I am a business coach and I am a digital nomad. So I currently am living in Bali right now. I would turn my computer around, but I'm in a Skype booth and there's not really anything interesting to see. So, but these are just some of the pictures of all of the fabulous places that I've worked from. Half of these places I have made a lot of mistakes balancing my business and travel and life. And so that's why this area and topic is one thing I'm super, super passionate about, because I love organizing and it can literally make or break you. So first, a little about me. I am probably very similar to most of you. I had a corporate job back in America, nothing to do with my degree, as most of us. It was actually not a terrible job, but I knew that I wanted to do more. I knew I wanted to work for myself. I had absolutely no idea what that would be or what it would look like. But I knew I wanted to live abroad. So I kind of came up with this master plan to move to Thailand. I was going to teach online for a couple months just while building up my online business. And that's pretty much exactly what I did. Except I was very, very scattered in the beginning. For about 6 months, I was all over the place. And I'm a type A person. So I thought that being type A and organized and all this stuff, I was on top of my shit. But in reality, I was so scattered and my focus was everywhere. I was trying to do everything at once. I kept downloading freebies, and everyone tells you you need to be in all of the places doing all the things to build this business. And so it wasn't until I actually started being productive with my time and learning how to hone in my focus that I was able to actually move the needle forward, and things started happening very, very quickly. So I actually started my first business as a self-taught graphic and web designer. I made over 5K my first month in launching my business and grew it from there, and then transitioned into a business coach. And the reason that I mention that for you is because the number one thing I tell people as why I had over a 5K month, my very first month in launching that first business, was because I was super, super organized, and where I felt that I lacked in a whole resume of experience, I had set up every process in my business and organizational touch point that people would have with me to be on point and impress everyone who kind of came into my world. But I also did that by actually simplifying the things that I was doing instead of trying to be everywhere. So that is just kind of how I got to where I am, and a little bit about me. So I'll turn this back around. And so the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was how we want to start with some organization. And I'm going to keep this section kind of brief, but I know that there's a million tools on the market. And that was one of the things that I fell into, is okay, cool, great. I'm running an online business. I can use Asana and, Honeybook and all of these different things. And so I dove in trying to find the best one that worked for me. And I think you really, really need to keep it simple, especially if you're balancing multiple things. You're not full-time in your business, but honestly, even if you are full-time in your business, I tried to make it way too complicated. So I run the majority of my business off of a very select few tools. And I'm not even going to go into all those tools with you right now, but the main things I use are Google Drive and Google Docs. Like I have 50 million Google Docs open at all times. And then you want to make sure that your email is organized too. So I just wanted to show you guys super quickly like one way. Again, you want to organize your Google Drive in a way that works best for you. But I wanted to show you guys really quickly how I organize my Google Drive, because this is like the lifeblood of my business. So this is actually my Google Drive too. So I'm taking you guys like actually in here behind the scenes. So these are all the folders that I have. So I have an admin folder, and inside of it, I have like legals, my website and branding info in case I ever need to like share that with someone, all of my different tracking and planning stuff, which I'm actually going to be showing y'all in a minute. Finances, and then SOPs. So if you're just running your business by yourself and you don't have any team members yet, which I'm assuming is most people, SOPs are not the first thing you need to worry about. However, I would start making them from the beginning if you can. Basically, it's just writing down your processes so that you don't have to go backtrack and do them for when you do want to hire someone, because you'll be surprised that you don't have to be making like 6 figures to be able to need to hire a team member or just someone to help maybe make some graphics for you or make this for you. So that's just a little tip and how I organize my admin folder. Like I said, I want to skim over this like kind of quickly so that we can get to like the meat of everything. But then I have business resources. And so this is like stuff that is for me. Like nobody else gets this folder. This is kind of like my hub of notes from any courses that I'm in, any freebies that I've downloaded or trainings that I've watched, like all of those different notes I like to keep. If I've ever downloaded swipe files, like swipe files are awesome. So I try and keep them all in one place. And then brainstorming is like my main folder. And I just have a bunch of different notes that often then will get delegated to like the content or a program I'm working on. But this is again, like my hub for just me to organize and brain dump and learn everything, which I think is really important in your business as well, because you'll probably want to come back to like all of these notes and trainings and stuff that you've done with Michelle at a later point. And if you're organized with that, you can really start to use it to your advantage. So then I have a clients folder. I'm not going to take you into that folder because it does have all my clients' names, and I just want to keep that for their privacy. But basically, I have a separate folder for each client, and you know that's one way that I communicate with my one-on-one clients. We'll upload notes to each other, and they can upload things from their business for me to review. It's kind of different for each coach, but I like them to have their own folder. Then I have content, which is my favorite one. And I know Michelle is going to go over content planning and stuff with you guys. But again, this is just how I have my Google Drive set up for it. So I have a different folder for each medium that I have. So I have a Facebook group, an Instagram, email, blog, and I have some launch planning stuff that's relevant to content. And then inside each folder, I have basically a month. And that's how I categorize each of my like content pieces, and I'll have like photos and captions and all of that within it. But I think it's really smart to start to organize all of that here, because then you can also take something from your Instagram and repurpose it later. And again, a lot of times too, you're not always like thinking about this, especially if you don't have a lot of time on your hands. You're not thinking about like, I'm going to have to make sure I save this to repurpose it later. I feel like a lot of times when we're feeling like we're lacking time, we start to act out of like, I just have to get this thing done. I just have to hit that next milestone, like kind of this state of desperation. And I encourage you really to make organizing things a priority, like have an afternoon, sit down to do this and set yourself up for success, because you'll continue in that cycle of, I just have to finish that next thing. I just have to get through this launch. I just have to write my content for the week. You'll continue to be in that cycle until you stop the cycle yourself and set something up to be able to change things for the future. So at some point you will want to start to repurpose old content and use it in different places. And it's going to be a nightmare if you don't start from wherever you are now to making that a possibility in the future, even if it doesn't seem like a possibility now. Okay, and then the last things I have is a folder. So Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp is a program I run, so it has its own folder. External files are files that are shared with either my VA or like I have a VIP client resource center. So I keep all those together in case I don't want like any of my internal folders to ever get shared. And then I just kind of have an archive as well so that you can still keep stuff, but it's not cluttering your main folders. So that is kind of, again, like my business hub. So I really encourage you guys to keep it simple and do what works for you. So again, I can even send a screenshot of how all of that's laid out if you want to copy that layout. But don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. Okay, cool. Did that make sense for everyone? Kind of help a little bit? Awesome. Okay, cool. So now let's actually dive into like productivity and time management and stuff. So the few things I'm going to touch about for productivity, and by the way, too, you guys can like pop in the chat or unmute yourself if you have a question. Just pop in and interrupt me, because I'll just keep going. Of course, I'll take questions at the end too, but don't feel hesitant to interrupt me. Okay, cool. So productivity. So the few things I'm going to be talking about are kind of some time hacking and management tips. I'm going to specifically talk about handling to-do lists, because I feel like that is like our daily hub of how we get lost with our productivity and time management. And then I'm also going to talk about like a few key pointers that I like to give people as far as how you actually take all of this information I'm talking about and balance everything if you have like 2 hours a day to work on your business and that's it. So a few just time management tips. The first one, which you've probably heard before, is do not multitask. I was terrible at this. I prided myself on being able to multitask, but you are literally 50% less productive. And the main reason that I feel this is so is because your focus is scattered. Like our focus is so important, and our energy, and we only have a finite amount of it. And so if your focus is delegated to multiple tasks at once, or even you can take this bigger picture, like multiple projects and goals at once, you're not going to be able to correctly like align your entire life and everything that you're doing around that goal and to hone in all of your focus on that. And that's when you'll start to find that things tend to be in conflict of each other as well. So if you have multiple goals that you're focused on or multiple tasks you're trying to do, whenever something comes up, you now have multiple areas where your focus is being spread. And so again, you're not able to really just channel and give 110% into what you're doing. And it's also going to feel more draining. So that is just one rule of thumb to make for yourself. The other main principle, which you guys may have heard of before, it's like a psychology principle, I guess is the right term, but it's technically called the Pareto principle, but most people know it as the 80-20 rule. And I really love talking about this because it's so true. So what the 80-20 rule is 80% of the results that you have generally come from 20% of your activities. And this can be applied to pretty much anything that you do. This can be applied if you're looking at how many people are you bringing into your sales funnel, how many people are you converting, how much of your content is getting you leads. You can really apply this rule to almost anything. And I also like applying this rule to your to-do list because oftentimes with our to-do list, we have a million things on the to-do list to accomplish that kind of make us feel like we're working towards something. But most of the time, people add things to their to-do list and to the things that they need to do, and will avoid that one big thing that's actually going to move the needle forward, or they will delay it. So for instance, if you are like, I would love to start a podcast. I'd love to start a new Facebook group. Maybe I need to go take some new pictures for my Instagram, or even like smaller tasks, like much more smaller, like menial tasks than this. You're going to start putting all of those like on your to-do list because it seems like it is helping you achieve your goal. And maybe it's not helping you achieve your goal. Like maybe it does seem like down the road that could be something that could help your business. However, right now we want to look at what are our money-making activities. What is the thing that is actually proven to be successful? Stop guessing in your business. What has worked? Where did your last lead come from? Where did your last sale come from? And what activities are you doing that are closest to the money? That is one way to kind of check yourself. And when you're looking at either your to-do list or kind of just projects and your business activities overall, is applying this 80-20 principle to what are the 20% of things that are actually working for me right now. That's not to say that everything else is not important. It's more that like we should not be focusing on it at the moment, especially if you are not working in your business full time and trying to balance multiple things with a limited amount of time. So that is a huge way to be able to kind of audit yourself. The other way that actually goes into that is tracking. And I am a huge person on tracking. I love like numbers and analytics and things. But even if you don't, as a business owner, especially in the beginning, like you're a one-man show. And even if this is not your strength, it is something that is really crucial for your business, because the problem is with marketing and with sales, if you keep trying to guess what your audience needs, what your audience wants, and what's working, that's when you're going to get really frustrated and burned out. The thing is that the market and the actual activities you're doing now will literally tell you what to do, but you have to pay attention to them and you have to gather some information. And so I think this is really important for productivity, because again, then we're not wasting our time, we're not guessing, we're not spinning our wheels. So a few different ways that I suggest adding business tracking into your business is budget, like your budget and your income and client tracking. So I'll actually show you a few of these. And budget, you might be like, how does that have to do anything with productivity? But you want to be aware of what your budget is and what your business expenses are. It might not directly like give you more time in the day, but it's included in tracking. And I think it's really important in your business to be aware of where you're at, so that you can then again go back to the point of what were my money making activities, what's working, what do I need to get to my next income goal? And so if you're tracking that, you have all that information in front of you. But the more ones I wanted to highlight were, let's see if this is open. So income and client tracking. So this is just like an example. But this is a great way to track. You can also use this for leads, but like, who are your clients, so that you have it all in one place. You can do what type of like package they bought from you or what their cost was. You could even change these categories to like follow-up dates or call dates with them if you have like due dates for either payments or due dates that you need to coordinate with that person, or ways you can collaborate with them. You can change these to however it is that you interact with your clients. But I think it's really important to do this for like each month, so that way you can kind of look back upon each month, and you can directly see, how much money you're bringing in each month, and also who it is that you're working with. And then in the same manner, I think this one's probably even more important, but leads tracking. So it is so important. We are only human. And one of the things that with productivity and time management is like being aware of your brain energy, because this is something that most people don't think about, but it literally takes a lot of brain power to be able to make decisions throughout the day. So literally every decision you make throughout the day is taking time by you contemplating it and making that decision. And so, well, I'm kind of going on a tangent there, but So the thing about like your brain power is that we cannot remember everyone that we've ever talked to. And so again, this goes back to the whole thing of why are you trying to force yourself to remember all of this? And then you're going to spend brain power, brain energy, and time trying to remember who you talked to and what you talked about. So make it easy with tracking your leads, track their name, how you found them, how you first contacted each other. Maybe a note about what type of business or what type of product they might be interested in, and then track your follow-ups as well. And it's really exciting as well to be able to move these leads down to converted sales or no longer pending anymore. And it makes it really easy for you. You can actually spend like a couple minutes every single day or every couple of days, come to your leads tracker and just see, okay, cool. I know exactly who I need to reach out to, who I need to contact. And it just makes it literally that much faster than you being scattered across Instagram and Facebook. And you just know exactly where to go, where you've contacted them, and what you could talk about with them. So this just makes that super, super helpful and a lot more streamlined. Trying to move this down. Okay, and then this one as well, I'm not going to go into detail about, but I just wanted to include because we were talking about tracking. So this just is a like monthly budget and business expenses tracker. And I'll send this to you guys. Y'all are more than welcome to use it. But again, it doesn't exactly necessarily save you time, but it will save you money. So that's also important if you're aware of your business expenses and kind of on top of all of that. So just wanted to include that for you guys. Okay, cool. Let me go back here. Okay, also, so the last thing too that I wanted to mention that you should start tracking is your analytics. So even if you look at your Instagram analytics, that is great. But again, if we want to streamline our processes and stop taking the guesswork or take the guesswork out of things, you want to start actually tracking your analytics and the measures that are actually important to you. So you need to think about like, what is my goal? So if your main platform and your main focus, let's say, is Instagram, there are so many different analytics that you could be looking at on that tracker. But right now, if one of your goals is growth, you want to really expand your reach and get in front of more people, one of the metrics we might want to pay attention to is hashtags. And Instagram can only give you, when you swipe up on each picture, you can only see the reach of your group of hashtags. So, that's great. But if you take it a step further and track it yourself and track which different groups of hashtags you were using, for example, had a certain amount of reach, then you can start to use a process of elimination to figure out what hashtags are providing the most reach for me by kind of A/B testing, or like I said, using process of elimination. So that's something that Instagram doesn't provide for you. But if you know what your goal is and where your focus needs to be, then you can use those numbers to take the guesswork out of it and start providing more results for you, focusing again on what is actually working for you and moving the needle forward. So again, that can be applied to pretty much like any aspect. I'm sure y'all know that with all these social media apps, there's definitely a lot of analytics available for you. But if you don't know how to use them, then most people, they're not really going to be helpful for you. Okay, cool. How are we doing? Good? Any questions so far? Good? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommended analytics app?
To be honest, I actually I have tried a few, but I just use what is provided between Facebook analytics and Instagram analytics. The only other app that I do kind of like, I use Later for scheduling Instagram. And if you, one of the paid versions of Later does give you a little bit more detailed analytics about each post in particular, including some more analytics on hashtags. So I did like that, but to be honest, after a month or two of using it, it wasn't worth me paying for, because I was able to kind of just see the trends in the analytics myself. But that's the only one that you definitely might want to try out. I think you can try it out for 1 month too, but it's one of the paid versions of Later. Cool. Okay, awesome. So I want to talk about 3 different time management methods that you can actually take, and this is like directly within your day when you're sitting down to work. So the first one I love, 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 I think a lot of people have heard of this one too, but is the Pomodoro method. Have you guys heard of the Pomodoro method? Yeah, some people know. Okay, cool. So the Pomodoro method is absolutely amazing. I did not make it up. I wish I could take credit for it. But essentially it is working in sprints. So you work for 25 minutes on, and then you take 5 minutes off. And there's actual apps and timers, and I can send the name of them to Michelle that there's like an app on your phone and then one on your computer too that you can use that has these preset timers for you. So the concept of the Pomodoro method is if you are super overwhelmed by all the things that you need to do, you can do anything for 25 minutes, right? And it really starts to eliminate that startup time that we lose, which what I'm talking about is anytime we sit down to do a task, it takes us time and process to get started up. You know, we're opening our computer, mentally you're kind of like getting in the zone. And so when you're like, okay, cool, I have 25 minutes to get this one small thing done, it really is a way to, again, channel your focus and your energy to accomplish something. However, it's not just one thing. You can break up bigger tasks. So let's say you're writing a bunch of captions for your Instagram. You're probably not going to be able to write a bunch of them within 25 minutes. So you may take more segments, but basically it's 25-minute segments, 5-minute breaks. And then after 4 rounds of that, you can take a longer break. So like a 35-minute break, you can kind of choose. However, you guys can actually take this method and make it your own. So if you want to work for an hour and then take a 15-minute break, make those your time chunks. Just make sure that you set a timer and that you're sticking to that so that you know I'm working for an hour, then I get a break and I need to accomplish something in this hour. The next method for time management that I like is the cone method. And this is just what I call this method. So don't go telling people about the cone method. But basically all it means is that at the beginning of the week, when we're looking at Monday through Friday, we start with the biggest tasks first, the most important tasks, the ones that if you think to yourself, I cannot go to sleep tonight unless this thing is done. Like those are the tasks you start with both on Monday through Friday, and then also at the beginning of every single day. So it's like a 2-tiered task, long ways and up and down. So Monday morning, start with your absolute most must-have, big, most important tasks and kind of funnel it down and do the same for your week. So that's just another way to set up things. And especially if you only have 2 hours to work in your business every day, this is a great way to kind of check yourself without like eliminating things off the to-do list, being like, oh, okay, I'm not allowed to work on, you know, Instagram photos today. Just instead be like, no, I have 2 hours to work on my business and I have to start with what's money making, what's most important first. And then at the end of that 2 hours, anything else, you know, you'll have to delegate to a different time block or somewhere else. But it's a good way to not feel like you're not allowed to do something, but that everything else comes first. And then the last one I wanted to mention is basically just, there's not like a great name for it, but essentially it's just like small time chunks to keep things like super firm and trackable. So this is super similar to the Pomodoro method, but this is more so taking a task and just breaking it down into like 4 equal time chunks, or you can pick something else. But basically it just helps redirect your focus. So if you just basically say, I'm going to work on whatever task it is. So let's just stick with like creating content, creating Instagram captions and things like that. And you estimate that it's going to take you about 3 hours to create all of your content for the next 2 weeks or whatever. So then break it up into 30-minute time chunks. And that way, basically, it's honestly kind of like a mental trick on yourself. But at the end of the 30 minutes, whether you take a break or not, like the Pomodoro method, you're basically just taking a moment to become aware and redirect your focus in case over that 30 minutes you've gotten sidetracked, all of a sudden pulled up Facebook. It's just kind of like providing a way for yourself that every 30 minutes you need to check in with yourself. Am I still on track to complete this task within the next 3 hours, or did I get sidetracked and start doing something else? So just breaking it up into small chunks can also basically give you smaller goals. So like for 30 minutes, I'm going to work on hashtags for my captions. Then I'm going to work on writing them. Then I'm going to, you know, so you can kind of do it like that. However, the number one way I wanted to talk to you guys about is batch working. And you can use all of these methods that I've talked about for batch working to help you kind of break up your batch working times. Are you guys familiar with batch working? No? Some yes, some no. Okay, beautiful. So batch working is essentially like taking and breaking down whatever types of tasks, especially that you repeatedly do in your business, looking at them across the board and figuring out what do I do often and what is similar that I can group together and accomplish together. So I think this is best explained with an example. So we're going to stick with content. So if you are running an online business, you are producing and creating some sort of content, right? So we'll stick with like Instagram, but this could be applied to, you know, your blog, your Facebook, video content, whatever it is. So this is something that you repeatedly do in your business. And just like we talked about before, how there's like that startup time and energy to everything that you do. So if you're sitting down every single day to write one caption to post on your Instagram every single day, you have to, again, get your computer out, get out the right docs. You have to open up your Instagram to maybe look at the analytics for which hashtags you want to use. You have to basically start up with all this time that is going to be essentially lost every single day that you are doing that. So instead, essentially what the concept of batching is we are going to take all of our Instagram captions, all of that we're creating, and do it at one time for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, whatever it is. But you can literally do this with every single aspect of your business. And it is going to be, for me especially, it was the sole thing that helped me get ahead and finally feel like I wasn't like in that cycle of desperation, essentially, that I talked about with you guys earlier. And so the best way to do this is look at all of the tasks that you have within your business. Like get a big old piece of paper. I'm a big fan of like get a piece of paper and just write things out everywhere crazy. So write out everything that you have to do and start to group them together. Things that take the same resources is one way that you can group them together. Things that take the same type of task. So if you are, if you're like a blogger, for instance, you are not only writing Instagram captions, you're writing blogs. So there's probably more written content all at once. So maybe instead of just creating all of your Instagram captions as a batch workflow, maybe you actually make your batch workflow writing. Like you actually just write the captions. You're not doing photos, you're not doing hashtags, but you just write the captions, you write all the blogs, and you spend a solid 3 hours writing everything that needs to be written for your business for the next 2 weeks. Then you can go in and set up another batch area where you are doing more like busy work, like where now you take all the photos you have, all the captions you have, all the blog posts, and you just schedule everything. You're kind of putting it all into action because it's the same type of brain power that you're using to do that. And it's the same type of tools and tasks that you're using. So again, this really eliminates our startup time, and it will 100%, like I guarantee you guys, make you more productive with your time. And it's really going to make you feel good once you kind of get into a groove of it, like really feeling like you can tackle your business and get on top of things again. So does that make sense before I move on? Do you guys like, does that make sense how to do that? Do you want another example? Make sense?
Can I add something really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for you guys, I'm sure a lot of you are probably like, well, I don't know what I need to do in my business yet in order to batch. So that will really come into play like when we do the strategy and planning. So once we kind of go over, okay, here is the type of content I need to create for my promotion or anything like that. Once you have that laid out, then you'll be able to, in the beginning of every month or whatever it is, do all of that batching. So there is a step before that, which we'll obviously get to, but batching really is the thing that's, I think, going to change the game for a lot of you. Because I know you guys are still like posting on a whim and just trying to like get it up, you know, but like really this batching and figuring out, I've lost my train of thought because now I got off track. But
you have to figure out first what you need to batch.
Yes. The strategy piece, learning the strategy first and then going into the batch content. Okay. Sorry. That's all.
No, Perfect. And another way too that you guys can batch, which again, it will make more sense to kind of once more pieces come into your business that you're tackling. But another way you can do this is with days. So I think you do this too, Michelle, but I know a lot of us do this, and we have a CEO day in our business. And again, if you're not in your business full time, then consider this your 2 hours of every day that you're working. That 2 hours on Monday is not to deal with clients, not to deal with social media. This is like your CEO day to do like some admin stuff to make sure all of that is on track. So some ideas for you guys that you can categorize your days would be like an admin day or a CEO day. You could have a marketing day in particular. You could then also have like a certain day that is for client calls or projects that you're working on that are specifically for clients. And then you could also have a day that are projects for your own business that are like for instance, if Michelle is launching a new program in 3 months, like all of the days that are her like internal project days maybe are the days that she's working on that new program. And again, you could categorize this too by learning. Like you guys are still like learning more and more and more about your business. So even batch work, maybe the modules that Michelle gives you, batch work a whole chunk of time of a workbook and learning and all the different things that maybe even you want to learn too outside of that into one area so that you're in the right headspace as well for all of this. So that's just another idea too, how you can take this and you really make it anything that serves you. I think the number one thing about anything that I talk about today with time management is I've given you guys a lot of different methods. And the key is not to make this overwhelming or overcomplicated. I give you different methods because different things work for different people. So I wanted to make you aware of all these different types of things, and I encourage you to try different ones out, but don't try and do all of them. The key is find something that works for you and literally do that. If it is working for you, don't overcomplicate it. Don't add more systems to it. Like it is okay to be simple. And I'm saying this because this was something that I needed to hear. I felt that like, because I needed to run a business, I needed everything to be like over the top and whatnot. It's like, no, like again, Google Drive is the main thing of my business. That is free. That is simple. So keep it simple. That is my tip. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to talk about my favorite thing, time tracking. And again, this actually goes into batch working. This goes into literally any single method you are using to look at your time and look at your to-do list. So time tracking is the number one thing that has changed my business. Number one thing, no joke. So essentially what I mean by time tracking is I at one point was still working with the cone method. I was batch working stuff. But even though I was batch working and doing all that stuff, I would somehow end the day and be like, holy crap, like how did something that I thought in my head would take 2 hours all of a sudden take 5? Like what actually happened? And so once I started holding myself accountable and actually tracking all of my tasks, I started to realize where my time was going so that I could intentionally next time sit down and be aware that, wow, admin tasks are taking me a lot of time throughout the week. Like, do I really need to be checking my email every single morning? Is that something that I can then batch or apply some sort of different time management method to? Or am I not estimating how long tasks are going to take me correctly? So for instance, if you thought writing content was going to take you an hour and it took you 3, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it does mean that we need to look at this. Either we're underestimating like what is involved in this process, and then maybe if we only have 1 hour to do things, then we need to look at, okay, I would love to do all these things. It's not bad that it took me 3 hours because I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, cool. I was focused the whole time, but I only have 1 hour a day. So for me to mistakenly think that I was going to get 2 weeks of content done, it's just not possible. So what can I eliminate? What is closest to the money? What is converting me the most leads? That's when you start to bring in those check questions, but you can only do that if you are tracking your time and if you're aware of what's happening to your time. So I want to show you guys 2 different ways to put this into practice. Okay, cool. So the first one, there we go. Where is it? My drive. Here we go. Okay, so the first one, this is a freebie that I have. And again, I will send it to you guys. So this is something that, again, just a way that I like to track time. So essentially you have a whole little sheet on the back end here that you guys can like print off, or again, you can literally draw this in a notebook, make it your own. But I'll scroll up here to show you how it works. So you put the project, task, or title that you're working on here, and then you can put a little details in the box. And then I'm a super visual person, so I like to color in my estimated time here, and you can write in if it's minutes, if it's hours. So if I think this is content writing all the content for my business for the next 2 weeks, and I think it's going to take me 2 hours, I can color in 2 little circles here. And then I'm going to put on my timer. I'm going to use one of my, time management methods, or I'm going to batch work it, and I'm going to put on my timer when I start this task. And then at the end of the task, when it's fully completed, I'm going to come back to my sheet and write how long it actually took me. And this does 2 things. One, that it actually most simply does is actually hold you accountable. Because if you know that you have to come back to your time tracker and actually record all that time, it's kind of this mental reminder during those 3 hours that you're working of like, oh no, I have to record how long this took. It was supposed to take 2 hours. Don't get on Facebook. Okay. Like it's these mental like shifts, again, shifting you back to where you need to do your focus. But again, the other reason it's really helpful is you can look at your day, at this whole sheet of all the different tasks that you had to do, and look at your day and be like, wow, okay, where's the disconnect happening here between how long I think things are going to take and how long they actually take? Again, the main questions you want to ask if those 2 things are not in alignment is, did I actually spend all of that time chunk working on this task, and did it actually just take longer than I thought it was going to take? Because sometimes that is okay. Sometimes we don't have a good frame of reference of time. But the other question you want to ask is, if it's not in alignment, what happened here? Did I get distracted? Did something else come in? Was I feeling lost in this task? Like I didn't really know what to do? Because when we feel lost, it takes longer to use more mental brain power, making decisions and like, oh, should I do this caption? Is this right? I'm not really sure who my ideal client is, so I'm not really sure how to talk to them. So maybe it's taking me longer because I need more clarity. Again, basically doing this is just going to give you valuable information on how to streamline and where to kind of fix and tweak your business and your time management. So the other way that I like to do this, and you can do both of these or you can do one or the other, is with this app called Team Week. Let's see if it will load for me. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So this is an app, oh my gosh, that I use. And basically I use it for time blocking. And I use it actually as my to-do list. So I transitioned from taking my to-do list on a piece of paper to making it a time block so that I didn't fall victim to putting 50 million things on my to-do list. So I'm trying to scroll to a section to show you guys like some good colors here. So I'm super, shoot. Okay. Team Week, sorry guys. Okay, so essentially what I mean is you're taking your to-do list for the day and putting it in a time blocking schedule. So you can actually just do this like on Google Calendar. You can do this like by drawing boxes on your to-do list. But I like to do it in here. So let me stop scrolling here. Okay, so here's an example. So this is like a great big overview that you can see. So especially if you're working on projects and all of your projects are yellow, then you could see throughout the week, like the process that all of the yellow tasks are going to take you. However, you can also look at your day. So let's look at Monday, this day, and I had a huge batch working session on sales emails. Then I had 1 hour of content and 1 hour being on Instagram and doing like DMs and stuff. So this literally tells me all of my to-do lists for the day, and you can actually like click on them too and write more details or add a little like to-do list within that. And I actually implemented my time tracking method onto this as well. So you can see right here, I estimated that sales emails, this whole batch working session would take me 5 hours. So I hold myself accountable every day. I have this pulled up literally 24/7. I'll come back into team week when I finish my sales emails, and I'll actually change this number. So let's say it took me 7 hours. So now I know it took me 7 hours, and now I can go back to my calendar, and I'm probably going to look at it, and something else will either have to move. Again, I can do that mental check to be like, why did it take me 7 hours? Was there something wrong? Yada, yada. But then you'll also start to see this all come into play. So you can look back on your entire week and just be like, what did I accomplish? What took longer than I thought it did? And you can actually drag and drop things, which I really like. So you can move a task from one to the other, and you can treat it like a to-do list as well on what comes first. So if I want to do my DMs and story first in the morning, all I have to do is I look at it, and I felt trapped by being like, from 8 to 9, I have to do sales emails. From 9 to 10, I have to do this. I didn't like that. And especially if you're balancing kids, if you're balancing a full-time job or a part-time job or something else, like it's very hard sometimes to be like, okay, from 6 to 7, I'm doing this. From 7 to 8, I'm doing this. Sometimes it's more helpful for some people just to be like, okay, I have 3 hours in my business today to do some work. And I know that these are the 3 tasks I'm going to spend 1 hour on each. So maybe you find that you have a lunch break or something happens during the day, and you can actually squeeze in the first thing on your list here, the DMs and the story, and pop that on and get that in. So these are just those time blocks that give you that flexibility to move around, and it's a great visual way to look at it. The other thing too is if you color coordinate it. So like gray for me is admin stuff or calls. So I can look back on my week and also look and be like, wow, this week was full of admin tasks and calls. Is there a way I can eliminate some of those admin tasks? Like, what was happening? Because anytime that I do something that wasn't on my to-do list, I make myself add a box. So if all of a sudden I got some emails in, but I was creating content, but I decided to move to my email and answer some emails for clients, even if that only took me 30 minutes, I forced myself to make a box on my thing here to hold me accountable that was how I spent some time during the day. So I hope that is helpful. That is not the full way that Team Week was like meant to be used, or the full capabilities of Team Week. There are other ways that you can use it. That's just how I like using it, as a time blocking method and kind of like my own calendar or to-do list. But again, you can actually do this with Google Calendar too. You can set up color-coded time blocks. They are just like assigned to like a certain time in the day. Most of them, I guess you can actually not assign it a time. But yeah, a lot of people like doing that with their Google Calendar as well. Okay, cool. How are we doing on time? Okay, I want to make sure we leave room for questions. So let me see. Okay, I'll go over a few other things as well and then leave room for questions. So my number one rule that I tell people to help with time management that just trumps everything that you've learned is called the 1 minute manager. I come up with the worst names. So it's called the 1 minute manager. And it basically just means that if something pops up into your field of attention and it will take 1 minute or less, you are not allowed to write that on a to-do list. You are not allowed to do that later. You have to do that thing right now. So if you can respond to someone's email if you're already on your email, don't let this thing drive your attention everywhere. But if you're already on your email and something pops up that you can just simply respond to someone, hey, yes, like I can absolutely do a call tomorrow at 8 p.m. Don't write that on your to-do list and let that be pending over. You're already most likely logged into your email. Just do it. Just do the damn thing if it takes less than a minute. And this is super helpful too, like on social media, if you're answering like DMs or answering questions or trying to do something like that. So 1 minute manager, if it takes 1 minute, go ahead and do it. The other thing I wanted to mention too with time blocking and batching is especially for those of you that are trying to create more time for your business. If you're not full-time in your business, use these methods towards your life. Like you as a business owner, your energy and your time, whether that's with your kids or your life or whatever it is, like it's all connected and it's all put together. So if you want more time and energy in your business, sometimes there's only so much you can do in your business to audit it down and create more time. So think about ways in your life too that you could batch things to create more time and more brain space, like food, meal prep. I'm not telling you to go get on some crazy plan, you know, if you don't want to be on like a diet or anything like that. It doesn't always have to be tied together, but if you meal prep on Sundays and you have all of your meals laid out for the week, meal prepping is a form of batch working. It's the exact same thing, and that can give you more time in your business. So think about different ways like that in your life that you can also create more time for you to focus on your business. And then the last thing I wanted to go over really fast, and then I'll take questions, is kind of just my 3 things that I like to mention if you are balancing a lot. Like if you feel like I have a job, I have kids, I have other obligations, like I'm really trying to make this work. These are kind of my 3 things to think about and focus on. I quote it as if you have 2 hours to work on your business in a day, but it could even be if you have 5 hours, if you have 1 hour, whatever it is. So these are the 3 things that you want to ask yourself in order to basically prioritize what you need to work on. And I kind of call it like the funnel of focus. Basically, I told you guys I have terrible names for things that I come up with. So the first one you want to look at is, what can I do in my business to build awareness? And I'll actually tell you guys all 3 of them first. So the 3 things you want to focus on are awareness, capture, and close. And so if you have 2 hours, you want to make sure that some sort of activity you're doing within those 2 hours is addressing each of these areas. So for awareness, the first thing, this could be showing up, getting consistent. Again, people can't do business with you if they don't know you exist. So this could be expanding your reach, maybe doing some engagement. You need to figure out where this is that you need to start building awareness. But if you only have 2 hours, maybe make 15 minutes, 30 minutes of that 2 hours every day, somehow reaching out to people, talking to people, doing collaborations. Do something that gets your name out there and builds awareness. The second thing you should do with your time is capture. So by this, I mean capturing leads, capturing people's attention. So sometimes we can set things up that will help us do this for us. So again, this doesn't mean that you have to, if you have 2 hours a day, do 45 minutes of each of these 3 things. I just want you to think about your to-do list every single day, if it's limited, to make sure you're addressing one of these things. So capturing leads could be spending time on maybe like a freebie that you're creating that's drawing people in. A lot of times we can automate things that are capturing, but you might need to spend time creating that. So sometimes like your website can capture people in for you, making sure that you have a clear process so that when someone sees the Instagram caption that you created to build awareness, where is it leading them? How are they going to book a call with you? And then are you spending time also nurturing those leads that have built up awareness and come into your sales funnel? Are you spending time nurturing those leads and capturing them into your world and your network? So that's another place you should spend time. And then the third one is close, right? We want to close the sale. So we want to make sure that and you might not be able to do this every day. Again, you just want to make sure that at the end of the day, if you literally only had 2 hours to do something, you don't need to create a Facebook group. You don't need to do all of these things. You just need to focus on build awareness, capture people into my network and nurture them and build those relationships, and then close the sale. If you have someone that you have on your leads tracker because you're tracking it and you now know that you need to follow up with them on Friday, you know during your 2 hours that you get to work on Friday, during that close period, you are closing that girl, you are closing that lead, and you are going to make that sale, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's talking with them, setting up discovery calls, those are super important. So anything like that kind of just helps you narrow down your focus of build awareness, capture people into your network or your funnels, and then close the sale. And that will kind of help you start to eliminate everything else that is swirling in your head that you should be doing. Okay, cool. I want to make sure I leave time for questions. So I know that was a lot and I talked really fast, but pop on here. Let me know what questions you guys have about anything.
Hi, Amanda. I asked in the chat, I put if you have
Sorry.
used Google Streak at all. Oh, no, it's okay. I know you mentioned like capturing the leads and stuff. So I was just curious if you had tried that. I've heard that from other people, but I have not tried it yet. And it seems a little confusing to me. So I don't know if it's worth going through that or not.
Could you say the name again? What was it?
Streak, Google Streak. Have you
Google
heard of
Streak.
that?
No, I've actually never heard of that. And what it's for lead captures?
Yeah, well,
Capturing
it's like a
leads?
customer relationship management kind of system, but I think it like works with your Google emails.
Okay.
So, and you can like color coordinate different stages of where the lead is. So like if you've just
Okay.
met them, if you've reached out to them, if you're close to closing a sale, that kind of thing. So you kind of know where everybody is at different stages.
Right. No, so I've actually never heard of that. I love that though. And that's essentially how I treat just my Google sheet, like that Google Excel thing that I showed you, is that was kind of my like freebie version of it. But mine actually looks like it's color coded of how warm is the lead? Are they cold? Where are they at in the process? And I keep my freebie kind of general because I know lots of different types of businesses have different stages that they take leads through. But I do highly recommend doing that, whether it's on like the Google sheet that I'm going to share with Michelle. You can customize it. You could definitely try that, but since I haven't used it, again, my biggest thing is if you are struggling with time management, really try to keep things simple. Try and keep it in one place. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily going out and trying all these new things. That's not to say it wouldn't be helpful. That's just kind of my blanket recommendation is keep it as simple as possible. It's much more important to just be organized, know who you need to contact, and spend the time building the relationship than setting up kind of the fancy like tracker aspect.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Does anyone else have any questions? This was so helpful. Like seriously, so good. I loved it. I'm pumped about the tracker because currently I track like my conversations, and some of you might do this too, but I just track my conversations like in Instagram. So I just create like folders and then move them through the pipeline in there just to keep them in one place. But I think like as our businesses grow, like having a sheet like that that's a little bit more detailed is a really good thing to have. So I love that. I'm super excited. Anyone else have any final questions? Nothing?
I have one that's kind of, it's not really related to time management, but I have a question because my husband works for an airline, so I get to travel a lot with him. And I worry sometimes that I lose some of my market because of, I don't want to say the jealousy factor, but how do you overcome, you live in Bali. I mean, like what's a way that you kind of circumvent that, and how do you kind of address that without it being, hey, look at me, I'm living this life?
Yeah, so I think part of that is like mindset as well, in being like oftentimes when we're online and showing our life and our business as a personal brand, like it's very vulnerable, right? Like you're showing like all the pieces of your life. And so it's very much like in our culture, like we don't want to brag, like bragging is seen as bad. We don't want to be over the top, but like the thing to remember is your energy and how you deliver the message will determine if you are bragging and being disingenuous or whether you're being genuine. But the fact that you have worked your ass off and you have created a life for yourself, it is not wrong that because your husband is a pilot and you get to, in the airlines and you get to travel, or even if that's not the case and you just get to travel, there's nothing wrong with that. And it shouldn't make you feel bad. The thing that you need to focus on is the fact that you are working to build a lifestyle for yourself, and that looks very different to other people. People talk to me a lot about like traveling, but honestly, not everyone wants to travel. I would say actually the majority of people, it was very shocking for me because I kind of thought that same thing too, that like I'm living this life, everyone's going to want to live this life, but it's actually not true. The more thing that you can connect with people on is the lifestyle that you have in common. The lifestyle that I represent, and that's a huge pillar within my business, is a freedom lifestyle. But even though I work with a lot of digital nomads and I represent the digital nomad life, actually having just the freedom that you created in your business that you should be proud of, that you worked hard with, just having that freedom to stay at home with your kids, like whatever that means to you, it's actually the same. It just looks different for other people. So I would say just work on that mindset a little bit, that like how you deliver the message is going to determine whether it's braggy or not. But it's okay for you to be proud of the life that you live and what it means to you, why you're starting this business, so that you can actually take all these trips and still be running your business from online. It's just how it represents for you and like what it means to you. And I think that you'll find too that when you share that in a genuine way and something that you're proud of and that it means to you, that people aren't going to be critical of you and give you shit for it, essentially. They may be jealous of it, but most of the time people are like excited for you and excited for it. Does that kind of help?
Awesome. Anyone else? We good? We're a few minutes over, but thank you so, so much. This was awesome. I'm going to put the recording in our group and you'll shoot me over those templates and stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
thank
put them all
you
in a
so
folder.
much.
No problem. Yeah, feel free guys to connect with me on Instagram or whatever. If you guys have any questions that like pop up after this, like don't hesitate to shoot me a message or something.
Yeah, I'll put the link to Amanda's Instagram on the graphic that I posted today, so you guys can connect with her there, okay? Awesome. Have an awesome night, ladies, and an awesome day, Amanda.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.